Can we talk about it? Should we talk about it? Should we talk about it? Ah, we should. Is UnChAiNeD really the best deck? No. Yeah, you guys, this deck's pretty good. It took the meta by storm. It topped a lot of events swiftly, back to back to back, consecutive, multiple premier high caliber tops. It took up a lot of space in top cut. It has high representation. It has a high ceiling. It plays to a lot of low impact hand traps that decks struggle with. It insulates a lot. It doesn't lose to really powerful blowouts like Droll and Shifter. It also can counterplay Nib, and it beats every other hand trap in the room. It's really strong. I think that the approach of preventing the boards from being made is just not the way to go with this deck. You just want to break the board. You just want to let it happen because this deck plays through too much. It's very, very solid going first, but I think sometimes even arguably better going second. It's pretty cracked at breaking through a lot of boards with pure engine. It's FTK against trap decks, and it's honestly super, super OP god level against Purley. So, with all that said, why is it not the best deck? Let's talk about it. So, if you guys like this kind of content, consider subscribing to the channel. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a dislike if you didn't. And definitely, without a shred of a doubt, 100%, consider supporting the channel even further by becoming a YouTube channel member, joining our Patreon, or even just joining the Discord, which is free. So is subbing. So let's do it, y'all. What I have is a template of cards that you will typically see being played in UnChAiNeD, except this card. We're not going to talk about this because, like, this card's crazy. I'm just going to say right now, this card's broken. Like this deck doesn't even have any other normal summons outside of Tour Guide. Like, come on, bro. This card's crazy. Like, Kepler is literally like a one card, like, borderline full board. It's just crazy. Yeah, it's really, really good. Kepler is really good. Yeah, Kepler's the sauce. Kepler's the spice. Kepler's really, really broken. Yeah, I like this card a lot. I like it a lot. So, now, like, what makes this deck not the best deck? It's as simple as this. Some decks are just better. It's not that this deck fell by the wayside. It's not that this deck lost any power. It's not that this deck, it didn't get any support. So and it did. It actually got, like, even better, like, after Agoff because of, like, Typhon and SP Little Knight. And, like, the fact that Solar Rage literally takes 3 cards from your opponent now. Like, one to summon this guy, another because he's summoned, and then just because he's there and your opponent tries to play, he's like, nope. And he indirectly is better follow-up, but this deck was kind of already the king of follow-up. This deck is really, really good, though. I can't take away, like, I'm not going to, like, this video is not a how to beat video. It's not a why this deck's not good. This is just, like, simply, like, this is one of the best decks, like, but is it the best, you know? This card is really good, and this deck does, like, really play through a lot. Like, I can't stress enough that UnChAiNeD plays through a lot of stuff. Like, a lot, bro. Like, a lot. It plays through a lot. Seriously. It's too good at what it does. It is redundant. It doesn't have super diverse inboards, but fortunately, this is the format where spot removal is too good. Spot removal is good against Purley. Spot removal is good against Rescue Ace. Spot removal is really good against every combo deck like Vanadium and Dragon Link. Spot removal is just really, really, really good. It's really good, especially against trap decks like Labyrinth. Like, so this deck has so much spot removal, but does it have negations? It kind of does now. Like, Typhon kind of is like a floodgate that this deck doesn't necessarily care too much about. And, like, so is Wave King Caesar. So, like, is the deck able to contend with everything? It kind of sort of is. However, what's this deck's worst matchup? We are going to talk about it right now. Floowandereeze. Floowandereeze is this deck's worst nightmare, not just because Impin's broken, and not just because, like, the birds are cracked, but because this deck doesn't really interact very well with that deck at all. And Flu is one of the best decks, so, like, if Flu becomes more popular, this deck inherently and naturally will become worse, because, like, it thrives on dealing with special summon monsters between the UnChAiNeD Souls, and also the fact that, like, your inboard literally loses all of its value if you're playing against Flu. Like, this does nothing against Flu. This does nothing against Flu. All you have is a trap. Like, you know? And neither does Griffin. And Flu is one of the best decks because, like, Flu is good against Tearlament, and Flu is also really, really good against UnChAiNeD. So, like, inherently, because, like, UnChAiNeD struggles against Flu, but also as a side effect of Tearlament's existence, every deck struggles against Tearlaments, but also Tearlament struggles against every deck that makes Dweller. Like, the Tearlaments actually, like, literally claps this deck up, bruh. Like, this deck gets clapped up by Tearlaments so bad, bro. It's so bad. Like, this deck gets his cheeks clapped frequently and abundantly by freaking Tears, bro. And Tears is one of the best decks. Like, so because Tear and Flu exist, how could this be the best deck if those decks exist? But not just that, like, I'm not gonna lie, Rescue Ace is really nice. Like, Rescue Ace is really nice. And, like, Rescue Ace is really good against UnChAiNeD. Like, Rescue Ace's traps are broken. Broken. Like, literally just the 2 traps alone with their restrictions makes UnChAiNeD, like, have to play more gas. Like, you literally have to. And then the other thing that, like, I think is a reason why this is not really the best deck right now is because people are not playing the best builds because, like, they're opting to board breakers. But, like, I think this format, you literally need there's, like, a sweet spot between board breakers and hand traps. And so, like, what you want is not just, I'll show you what every build plays most of the time. Literally, it's a common theme. 3 tactics, 3 thrusts, 3 talents, and targets. 3 thrusts, 3 talents, and targets. Maybe like 3 imperms or 3 ash. Sometimes they play like 3 ash and then 3 of each tactic cards and then like 4 targets, and that that basically equates to 13 non-engine cards. But like only one of them is like proactive. Like a lot of them are reactive, meaning the board has to be made. And like this deck is good though. It's really, really good. It's a really good deck. It's really powerful. It's so consistent. Now, here is my problem with the deck, and it's why I play it the way I play it and the way I've always played it, which is a blind second deck. I just want to clap you up and break your board because this deck makes one of the weakest turn 1 boards comparatively to like the other decks. Like this card has to be on your inboard or you will literally lose. But like also if this card's there, like just resolving him once kind of means you're going to win. Because like if this card sticks to the field and your opponent doesn't have a non-engine out and they have to play into it, it's going to eat 2 cards out of their hand by itself. And those 2 cards are going to be valuable engine cards that need to resolve more often than not. Like to break the board, you have to special summon. Most of the time, you just do. So yes, UnChAiNeD can float like crazy. It's super resilient and it's hard to kill. And it doesn't really die to like, and these are the strengths that I'm highlighting. It doesn't really die to like any hand trap singularly. Like even like Droll and Shifter and Lancia, which are the 3 best hand traps. In the terms of like, if you have a single hand trap you can pick. Like these are one of the 4 where like these are in an echelon of their own. Like these are lingering effects that like linger like residually to the end of the turn. Some even go past that. But like Nib is also like one of the best hand traps that you can have by itself. But like this deck can beat all of these. This deck doesn't really care about Lancia. It typically only searches like once. Unless you like have a hand where like you draw Prosperity, Abomination's Prison, and Gate, and still want to resolve Yama, like yeah, but you can still play through the Droll even then. Like this just turns into engine. You just pop it, and like this is just follow up, and like your Prosperity is the first card to resolve. So like you literally can play through Droll even when you have 2 or 3 cards that lose to Droll. Like it's crazy, and Yama can just add from grave anyways. And Yama's a custom card. Yama is a very broken card. This card, because it can be made by only 2 fiends, it's ridiculous what you can do with this deck. Tour Guide is people have said she's the best normal summon in the game, and she has to go. Do I agree with that? Nah. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think she's the best normal summon. If we want to talk about the best normal summon in the game, Diviner, Seifert, Black Metal, Airlifter. I could go on a list, bro. Of cards that are just so much better, bro. Like they're just so much better. But like, yeah, Tour Guide's kind of nice. She is, and the deck's really good. It has like a lot of utility. with its kit, being able to like always get access to its engine, because every engine card benefits one another, being that like you can play with your bricks, which is really cool, that like the cards you brick on, and you can play 3 of everything even if you draw multiples, because you can just pop them. Now like this deck does have some cards you don't want to draw, being like Shiyama and Disaster. This helps you like beat so many matchups and play through Nib better. But also, like, this card is pretty good, and it's pretty nice to have it in hand. This is another reason why this deck beats a lot of hand traps. Like, you can chain block Ash. You can chain block Ash. You can chain block Bell as well, which is really cool. This deck just doesn't lose to hand traps. But, dun 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 dun, it loses to a lot of board breakers. It loses to every book. It can lose to... Well, it doesn't actually lose to droplets as hard. Like, but this is the thing. It doesn't really lose to those, because, like, having Yama in the traps allows you to play through more and, like, makes it harder to navigate your board. And, like, your opponent has to, like, make you do something with the Rage, because if they just preemptively out it without it using its effect, it's coming back no matter what. So, like, even then, it doesn't fully lose, but, like, it can get clapped up specifically by this card. So, it does get clapped up by Evenly pretty hard. And that's a problem that Rescue Ace did solve just recently. It solved that issue where it was a problem. So, like, is it the perfect deck? It's not the perfect deck. And this inherently is funny because it's like a how to beat. Because, like, I just did a Rescue Ace video where, like, we were talking about Rescue Ace kind of being the best deck in a lot of people's eyes. And people are starting to not really agree so much that this is the best deck anymore. However, like, Rescue Ace struggles with Lancia specifically, and Dro, loses pretty hard to both but can still play. It can play under and with Shifter, so it can actually utilize Shifter in its kit. It does have the abilities to play through Nib. But what's funny is, like, with Nib and Dro, like, the deck gets a chance. It has to be able to play into these. But then with, like, these cards are actually good against Rescue Ace, because, like, they are low impact, but Rescue Ace typically can lose to 2 of these if with a hand that's average. A broken hand can play through 3. But, like, lower impacts are better against that deck, because preventing the engine from getting online or preventing the board in general is better than trying to, like, break it with Rescue Ace. Where with this deck, like, you don't want to prevent the board, you just want to break it, because it's easier to break the board than it is to stop it from happening against UnChAiNeD. But Rescue Ace, it's easier to prevent it than it is to, like, break it when it actually happens. And because, like, Rescue Ace loses to, like, cards that UnChAiNeD doesn't, you would think that UnChAiNED's better, but, like, just because UnChAiNeD doesn't lose to these doesn't mean all across the playing field that its inboard is good enough. Because the biggest problem and the elephant in the room for UnChAiNeD is not about how good it is against non-engine and how good it is at going second. It's about the fact that its board sometimes is just a little too average. Its board is relatively easy to break with, like, the proper hand, of course, and an adequate hand and a competent player. So, like, with that being the problem, you would think, why is this considered the best deck? Because it's so consistent and it's so resilient. Consistency and resiliency a lot of the times outweigh sheer outright power and higher ceiling. Other decks have higher ceiling, and other decks do have more power. Their inboards pack more of a punch. Their inboards just put more detriments on the opponent's playstyle. But, like, this deck's imposing factors against other decks is, like, it's too hard to reactively play against this deck. It's too hard to, like, proactively play against this deck, trying to, like, stop the board from being made. And, like, this deck does break boards so easily and so efficiently, and it does have, like, so many lines like that, like, it just Typhon free, like deuce is so freaking free into a Zeus, it's so freaking free. And, like, it gets Fiend Lock, but there's so many nifty Fiends. I mean, look at Goddess, look at Griffin, you know, like, look at the UnChAiNeD cards themselves, like, look at the DDDs. Like, it has a very unique kit, and it is a very powerful deck, and it is tier 1 for good reason, but it's not the best deck in my opinion. It's not the best deck because of that one factor that needs to be solved. Its inboard needs a higher ceiling, but we don't want to play more bricks, and we don't want to play less hand traps and less non-engine. So how do we figure that out? The deck's not solved. That's why. That's what I truly believe. The deck's not solved, but it is literally arguably the best deck, but it's very, very close. And that's my synopsis. That's what I have to say. Thank you guys for watching this video. God bless you. Make good choices. Don't hurt your brain cells. Stay tuned for future content. Peace.